My name is Jennifer. I'll be your moderator for today. I would like to thank you for joining us today at our webinar, Data Protection for State, Local Government, and Education During Uncertain Times. Today we have Dan Rains, a Regional Sales Manager at Rubrik, Chad Hodges, an Executive VP at ENS, and Neil Martin, a Regional Sales Manager at Cloudian. So with that, I will kick it off to Dan.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. My name is Dan Rains with Rubrik. I've been with Rubrik over 2.5 years, based up here in Sacramento. My focus is on government. So one thing about Rubrik is we're considered a disruptive technology. So when I say disruptive, we like to bring up things like, think of Amazon, Uber, Tesla, those type of technologies, you know, in your own consumer market. These products are known as being disruptive in the IT space. Rubrik is in that space, but growing phenomenally faster. In fact, it just came out today, but if you're interested, Jennifer is going to send you all an email link to it. We were just named the leader today in Gartner's Magic Quadrant in data protection. We're really proud of that. Just came out today. So what makes us different? What's exciting about Rubrik? Well, a lot of legacy backup technologies were built for backup to tape, then backup to disk, then virtualization, then deduplication, then getting to the cloud. There's a lot of legacy stuff within them. Rubrik was built as an archiving to the cloud technology and virtualization out of the box. Now, if you never go to the cloud and you always stay on-prem, we work great. If you've got physical servers and that virtualized, we work great. But virtualization in the cloud is really where we shine. Now, I can share with you, we've got over 2,000 customers running Rubrik. Right? A lot of what I get is, Dan, that sounds great. Can't even read the slide. Who do I know that's running it? So I'm going to show you who in government is. So this is our customer deck in the state government. We've got over 20 state agencies in the greater Sacramento area in California running Rubrik. 2.5 years ago, the slide would have been empty. We've been growing phenomenally fast. A lot of people ask me who my competition is. I'd say it's like asking Apple and Google if BlackBerry is their competition. We're literally replacing every major backup vendor that you can think of. Also in local government, 2.5 years, growing phenomenally fast. Literally, I could tell you about I tell the government about every quarter, I'm adding 5 to 10 net new government agencies joining Rubrik. And this is just in cities and counties. Also K-12, one of our faster growing areas. Now, by the way, I like to focus on technology. That's the main reason people are going with Rubrik. But a lot of our customers are also sometimes seeing up to 30% cost savings, including operational savings. So here's one of our customers, California Department of State Hospital. They bought Rubrik about 1.5 years ago. They're one of our biggest customers with petabytes of data. These are some real-world numbers they experienced with Rubrik. And a great story about them is one of their hospitals, they had an outage. If it wasn't for Rubrik, they were going to have to evacuate their hospital because they couldn't get their primary storage going. Because of Rubrik, they were able to run during that time. So I find storytelling sometimes is better than just going over technology. Many of you may remember the story of the Orville Dam a couple of years ago. We had some of the best rains we've had in years. And as you can see, the picture on the left, and you can see the picture in the middle, you can imagine what happened when that dam cracked and water started going over the side. There was a risk of the whole dam breaking. So the city of Marysville had to be evacuated. Yuba County had a backup technology. They could not get DR going locally or remotely. Literally, they were looking at putting their data center in pickup trucks and trying to take it somewhere else. After that, the Board of Supervisors told IT, you need to evaluate the latest and greatest technologies out there. We can't use this legacy backup stuff anymore. After a lengthy process, they chose Rubrik. Why? Because they have true testable DR on-prem and in the cloud. Amy Tong, who was just renewed as our CIO of the state, she came out with what you call the top 10 CIO initiatives. When you think of backup, you might just think, number 8. We actually came out to 7 out of the 10 top initiatives in the government. Now, what does Rubrik do? I like to compare this to the world before you had your smartphone. Think about before you had your smartphone. You had a GPS, a calculator, an alarm clock, an MP3 player, a flashlight. I could go on and on and on. It's all now ubiquitous and integrated in your phone. Why can't backup be the same way? Why do you have to have a backup software, backup servers, media servers, proxy servers, replication, database, snapshots for your storage, replicated snapshots for your storage, storage on the other side, products for continuous data protection, and you may still have tape. And you've got to manage all these products and the expense. What if we could do the same thing that your phone did? We take all these things, all gone. This is a brick, hence Rubrik. It's a 2U appliance. If I opened it up, you would see 3 to 4 nodes inside of it. Each node is like its own computer. CPU, memory, SSD, spinning disk, and fully redundant. In your regular backup technology, if you added more storage, it doesn't make your backups go faster, it just gets you more storage. If you ever have to add more storage, backups and restores become phenomenally faster. So how does Rubrik work? If you've got, let's say, VMware or Hyper-V, we basically get installed on vCenter and we auto-discover your VM. There are no clients needed. The only place we would need a client are physical servers, SQL, Exchange, or Oracle. Outside of that, no clients needed. We connect to vCenter, auto-discover your VM. So what does that mean? What if somebody installs the VM and doesn't tell you about it, VM gets corrupted, and then they ask you to restore it? You go, I never knew about it, we didn't back it up. With the Rubrik, automatically can have a default backup policy. I would also tell you, we are the easiest to use backup product. And I'm not just saying that because I sell the product. If you're interested in Rubrik and we do a call and I go over it with you, I'll introduce you to Rubrik customers that have replaced virtually every backup product under the sun. Every one of my customers will tell you ease of use. We offer training classes. I virtually never sell them. Most of my customers, we can train while the product's installed. We connect to vCenter, and then what we do is basically no more backup jobs, no more fulls, incrementals, differentials, all that's gone. All you do is you say, hey, you know what? I want to back up these VMs every 6 hours. We connect to vCenter, we monitor VMware or Hyper-V, and the benefit for you is instead of like those failed backup jobs because of resource contentions you're used to, if we see there's a lot of contention, we wait. If we see there's an opening, we say, VMware, take your snapshot. VMware takes a snapshot, sends a change box over to us. Now again, no more fulls, incrementals, proxy servers, orphan snapshots, all gone. So I can say back up to Rubrik. I want it saved on Rubrik for 30 days. I also want it replicated and or archived to something like Cloudian, which we'll talk about soon. This is a big feature of Rubrik, what we call instant recovery. If you ask yourself, how long would it take you to recover a large VM? Most customers tell me hours, sometimes days. What if there was a major corruption like ransomware and you have to recover a lot of VMs? Obviously, that'd be a major issue. That's because the VM's got to come out of the backup storage or tape, through the proxy or backup server, over the network, back to your client. We can do that. Less than 1% of our customers use that ability. The most preferred is what's called instant recovery. We can recover any VM of any size, 2 minutes or less. How does that work? You say, I recover VM ABC from July 10th at 2 p.m. You right-click Live Mount, vCenter pops up, you pick an existing ESX host, and it now sees Rubrik as NFS storage. That VM is up and running. We can even pick up the IP address and become the IP of that VM. Now it's running on us. At one appliance, 30,000 IOPS of DR storage. Almost like run flat tires. And then in the background, the UV motion at back at your leisure. We've had customers run on us for days. After we back up the VM, we crack it open, fully index the file. It's like a Google type search to find a file, very simple. And then DR. You could replicate the appliance off-site for DR. Also, we can go to an archive. So we can go to the public cloud, or what we can do is go to a private archive. This is what Cloudian does, and I'm going to let Neil go into that in more detail. But you could say back up to Rubrik. I want it on Rubrik for 30 days for very, very fast restores. I then want it on low-cost storage for a year restore. I search for a file or VM. It pops up in Rubrik. If it's local, it comes up right away. If it's in the private cloud, it pulls from there. We also can archive off to Amazon or Azure as well. If you have Pure Storage, we can integrate with Pure Storage and kick off their snapshots. Next, if you've got NetApp, right? One of the challenges, as we know, is NDMP backups. I know a lot of customers aren't thrilled with that type of technology. Rubrik, if you've got NetApp, we can literally tell NetApp to take its snapshots, send the change snapshots over to us. We can deduplicate it, have it on us, and in the cloud. We can also back up your NetApp to Cloudian storage for further archive. Oracle, any Oracle database of any size, we can recover it 2 minutes or less. If you've got files that, let's say, don't deduplicate very well, like video data, we all know that can take up a lot of storage. We have a product called NAS Direct Archive, where literally we can say these files, Rubrik backup, don't store them, but pass them through Rubrik, and then we can send them to low-cost storage like Cloudian. I search for the file, it pops up, but it pulls from the low-cost storage. And here's the advantage of that. Office 365, we can give you mailbox level, message level restore, as well as OneDrive backup and restore, and also SharePoint. But we're also on, if you're a state customer or local government, we're on a storage as a service contract through CDT and ENS.
Yes, this contract's fantastic. It was awarded 2 years ago. It's a 7-year contract that allows premise-based storage for any public sector entity in the state of California. They can leverage the state of California's 2 data centers in Rancho Cordova and Vacaville. These different tiers have different performances of storage, but the great thing about it is we're able to do archive and backup as a service in that solution as well, and Rubrik is the core of that as well as Cloudian.
So ransomware, we all know this is getting worse in government. We all see the stories, right? A lot of it's local in the Sacramento area. Sadly, with the COVID virus, there's a lot of provocateurs taking advantage. Where Rubrik fits in the story is this. Many customers tell me, all customers tell me they invest a lot of money in backup. The question is, you invest all that money from backup, how often do you do DR testing, where you actually bring up a lot of your VMs, you validate them, you make sure you can do a restore? Most customers don't. It's too lengthy. Unless you're hit like something with ransomware, and then you realize your backup technology is inadequate, like is what happened to the city of Riviera. It also happened to the city of Baltimore, insufficient backups. And now the new variants of ransomware, they're not content to just go after your primary data. The new variants of ransomware are actually going into your backup technology. They're going into your server that does your backups and into the storage, which is like an NFS share, and encrypting it. This is becoming a much bigger issue now. This is what happened to Imperial County. Their backups got corrupted by ransomware. This happened to the city of Atlanta. I also have a number of customers in Northern California, same thing. One thing, I'm going to move over here. We like to say, what if there could be a different outcome than this? With Rubrik, we're an appliance. There is no exposed file system, right? There is not a way to get into Rubrik and encrypt the backups. We write as blocks. They don't go away until they no longer point to anything. We are immutable to ransomware getting into your backups. In fact, if you look at the Gartner report that just came out today, one of the biggest things they talked about was Rubrik being immutable to ransomware. Whereas all the other backup products, they have to defer to the storage vendor for your protection. So City of San Leandro was in the news about ransomware. They bought Rubrik. Here's another one. Modesto City Schools, hit by ransomware. They couldn't recover from their backups. They bought Rubrik soon afterwards. City of Lodi, hit by ransomware, couldn't recover, purchased Rubrik. You can see that you see a lot of these going on here. City of Gulf, again, hit by ransomware. This actually got into their backups. This was an actual account we worked with ENS on. Not only their data, but their backups got corrupted. They couldn't recover. A month later, they bought Rubrik to never go through this again. Contra Costa Library, again, not just their data, but their backups got hit by ransomware. They were in the news. They couldn't recover. A month later, or 2 months later, they bought Rubrik. Not only they bought it, the county, the healthcare, and Employment and Human Services bought Rubrik as well. City of Stockton, they weren't in the news because they're one of the ranked as one of the highest government agencies hit by ransomware. Not only did they purchase Rubrik, but one of their asks was, since you have 30,000 IOPS of DR storage, and it's not just a landing page, we want to actually use Rubrik to do test DRs, where literally they bring up every couple of weeks, they bring up a number of VMs and actually validate that they've got DR. So these are all stories I've shared with you of government customers hit by ransomware, bought Rubrik afterwards. What if you had Rubrik and you were hit by ransomware? Well, up in an hour, 0 data loss. Kern Medical Center, hit by ransomware, 100% recovered. City of Las Vegas, hit by ransomware, up in a day, 0 data loss. And if you look at the bottom right, you actually credit Rubrik. City of Durham, again, this is a news article, not a Rubrik story. They were hit by ransomware. It affected over 2,000 of their systems. If you look to the paragraph of the right, 2,000 machines were infected. But because they had Rubrik, they were able to run their priority virtual machines on Rubrik while they worked on the restoration. If you look at the bottom, that's an actual quote from the mayor of the city, where he said ransomware cannot get into our backups. We have a product called Radar, where we can actually scan your backups looking for ransomware. We partner with PAN. We believe data security, data protection are no longer separate technologies. How can we help you with data security? Bring up VMs in 2 minutes or less, immutable to ransomware, DR testing, encryption included in the product. We have FIPS, Radar, VMs in the cloud, and we have CDP. What is that? That means we can actually do backups not every couple of hours. You could do a backup every 2 minutes if you wanted to, native in the product. We have a product called Sonar, where we can look for alphanumeric strengths in your backups. So again, all these things you're used to, all gone with Rubrik. Again, and then archived off to the cloud. We've won awards on the quality of our tech support. These are all our different models on-prem and then Cloudian into the cloud. And it looks like this. Chad, did you want to discuss this contract as well?
Yeah, so great thing about this contract, the state of California went out and did a competitive bid for 16 different OEMs. And this vehicle is for the state of California, it's a master, it's a required contract. For all other public sector entities in California, it's a streamlined procurement process that allows you to procure technology without having to go out to bid because it's already been competitively let, and went through very stringent process to do that. It was a year-long process, and we were granted the sole award of the Rubrik silo. Pretty exciting.
Rubrik is sold on a subscription model, which means that you buy Rubrik after 3 years. If you renew, we automatically refresh your hardware for you, no charge. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Neil at Cloudian to go with his side. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Dan. Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending. Thanks for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. My name is Neil Martin. I'm the Regional Sales Manager for Cloudian, based here in the San Francisco Bay Area, San Francisco to be specific. And yeah, I think a good segue, I'm in my fifth year at Cloudian. It's been an amazing experience, and I'm happy to look back 3-4 years ago. My systems engineer, Frank, and I actually were involved in the first joint production deployment of Rubrik and Cloudian, which happened to be at another state government outside of California. But, you know, fast forward to today, we're approaching 100 joint production environments at large enterprise and government agencies globally. Rubrik has been a fantastic technology partner with Cloudian. So I'll talk a little bit about that, you know, as I move through my overview of Cloudian specifically. So, you know, who are Cloudian? What do we do? We deliver and really are considered the leading independent provider of petabyte scale-out S3 object storage. We're a solution that can start very small, a couple hundred terabytes, but really where we live and where we deliver our greatest value is for customers and cloud service providers such as ENS who need to deliver very durable scale-out S3 storage. We tend to be, you know, you find these use cases where large unstructured data sets live, and certainly data protection is a huge category for Cloudian, and I'll talk and speak to some of the very rich features we provide within our solution that really are designed, which really is designed for very high durability. The solution can be consumed either as an appliance, as software only on OEM hardware from companies like HPE or Cisco, and also through service providers such as ENS. So where does Cloudian fit? Most of our customers are leveraging Tier 1 storage from NetApp, Dell EMC, Pure Storage, I mean, the gamut, and then certainly Rubrik Tier 1 in the data protection space. Where Cloudian really delivers its greatest value is where customers have unstructured data sets which don't necessarily need very high IOPS, where cost and durability and features are important. So from backup and data protection, to legacy file offload. A lot of our customers have Isilon and NetApp and are pushing their less active data out to a more cost-effective and scale-out S3 storage platform. So we tend to live with those other platforms in our customer environments. In fact, I have a customer who was just commenting to me the other day what a wonderful experience it is to do software upgrades and expansions to their Cloudian environment. It doesn't involve any downtime, so no planned maintenance windows, et cetera. So there are a lot of advantages to S3 object storage from Cloudian that they'll expand upon as I move forward. Another area that we're seeing more traction in the government space is geographical information systems. So a bit about, my focus is not specifically on state and local government. So my slide sort of, incorporates some of the other large enterprise customers, but I will sort of drill down a bit on our government. So really, at the end of the day, large enterprises who are doing, hundreds of terabytes or petabyte scale, and government agencies who are doing these types of data infrastructures are relying on Cloudian. You'll see a lot of leaders in this slide, and certainly state of California, city of San Francisco, other states, we've got quite a few, and some of them I don't even know about because they are they are customers of Cloudian customers who are service providers like ENS. So Cloudian rates very highly in Gartner. If you look at, this is public information, you can go to the Gartner Peer Insights. This is a production customer-oriented segment of Gartner where actual production customers of the different object storage solutions are interviewed and, provide reviews on the platform. So Cloudian has fared very well in this. In fact, if you move forward to the next slide, we actually were a 2020 Gartner Peer Insights Customer Choice Award. So really our customers, the willingness to recommend, we rated highest, and I just really think that speaks to the quality of not only our platform, but the support and professional services organization we've built around delivering S3 storage clouds to customers to deploy in their own data centers or to consume from cloud service providers. So everyone's got this slide, so I'm going to skip over this really quickly. But at the end of the day, we're supposed to reach 40. IDC and other market research organizations claim we're going to be at 44 zettabytes globally by the end of this year. I think with folks working from home and having a lot of time at home, I could see that growing even quicker. But what this explosion in data, not only from users, but from all of the devices out in the world now in terms of IoT, they're generating massive amounts of data, and traditional storage platforms can't really keep up. They tend to be, if you're trying to address an exploding data challenge within sort of a traditional NAS, you're going to end up with a siloed environment. And if you're doing a scale-out approach, it can be very costly. And, back to what I mentioned earlier about, how do you manage that as you get larger if you're leveraging traditional POSIX-based file system storage? It's very difficult from an operational standpoint. So there's some real advantages to implementing an S3 storage cloud. And I'll speak a bit more as I move through this about, why would you do a private S3 cloud versus, pushing data out to Amazon or Azure or GCP. Move forward. I think I spoke to this. So Cloudian. We can start as small as 3 nodes, and again, this can be consumed directly, by reaching out to Chad at ENS. So you can start very small. Typically, where we, as I've mentioned, where we sort of generate our most values in hundreds of terabytes to petabytes to multi to many petabytes. And we have customers as large as 200 petabytes. But I would say most of our customers are in the half a petabyte to a couple petabyte range. And so you can really start in a very small footprint, but you can grow exponentially with minimal operational. Oops. Sorry, I'm not used to this animation lag. So Cloudian private S3 storage clouds can be consumed in multiple manners. You can consume it on-prem in a single site deployment. We have bucket level erasure coding and replication capabilities. So customers can deploy a multi-site deployment. We have hybrid capabilities to tier out to Azure. To Glacier, and then to Azure and Google Cloud Platform's cold storage. We can tier out to all of those, and we can also be consumed through ENS, who have I'll let Chad speak more to them, but they have a very durable multi-site S3 storage cloud that is comprised of Cloudian. So one of the ways Cloudian really distinguishes ourselves, and we've done this from day one back in the 2011 timeframe when we released 1.0 version of our platform. We're at 7.2 today. Is our commitment to delivering a very tightly S3 integrated solution. So back in 2011, we made some really important engineering decisions, and one of them was to bet on S3 becoming the de facto cloud native, RESTful API standard. And I think that was a good bet. All the application ecosystem partners we work with write their applications to S3. It's like the NFS or SMB of the file world. It has one. And so the interface into Cloudian is a very comprehensive. We're in the high 90, sort of 97, 98th percentile in terms of API compatibility. The few API calls that we don't support are not necessary for our private S3 cloud. So it's a way Cloudian distinguishes itself from the traditional storage vendor object solutions and other solutions that claim to have S3. And this is really important, and I can use Rubrik as an example in terms of data protection. When a company like Rubrik, who are very innovative and who are moving fast in terms of innovating and advancing their solution, when they write and develop their latest release to AWS S3, the ability for Cloudian to very tightly integrate with whatever modern advancements happen is significant. And we have a very significant lead over other object storage vendors in this space. And I'll use an example of that, of a new capability called S3 Object Lock in a couple more slides here. But, again, data protection, very, very large scale unstructured data sets, and the application ecosystem providers like Rubrik and Pure Storage. We have an integration with them where you can cloud snap directly from Pure to Cloudian, our archive tier S3. We have an integration with Splunk to do warm storage for scale out Splunk environments. Just as some examples, and then I can even throw out an interesting example. One of my customers is Comcast, who do linear origination for the Pac-12 networks, and NHL networks are a couple of examples of their customers. And one of the reasons Comcast and their daughter company NBC Universal have deployed Cloudian extensively is for our ability to deliver an AWS S3 cloud experience inside their own data centers at a fraction of the cost with no egress charges. Talked a bit about use cases, but I don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but really, again, what you're addressing today with with legacy NAS, the ability to sort of collapse and shrink down that legacy NAS, because it's sort of the 80-20-90-10 rule, right? Typically, a very small percentage of an organization's data is actively used, so it makes a lot of sense to complement your environment with a scale-out S3 archive target. So a bit more depth on data protection. I mentioned earlier that Cloudian Hyperstore is designed with data durability in mind. We do erasure coding at the bucket level and replication at the bucket level. So the ability to have a very durable, I think of erasure code almost like RAID, except it's with nodes. So the ability to do a 9-3 erasure code, for example, with 12 nodes and have three nodes dedicated to data protection, and providing really deep resiliency for hardware failures, as well as delivering a very extensive usable yield out of that raw hardware. So that's what allows us, that and the fact that we are software defined and deploy on, well-designed object store like Cloudian deploys on commodity-based hardware. So the ability to deliver great storage yield, as well as to deploy that durable platform on commodity-based storage server hardware, allows us to deliver a very attractive cost model. I guess, also to mention on this particular slide, we do tend to, we're working with a lot of customers who might be using sort of legacy purpose-built backup appliances, either from Dell EMC, for example, like Data Domain, or from the actual legacy backup vendors themselves. They tend to have backup appliances they sell as well. Cloudian can be much more cost-effective, far more operationally easy to manage, and deliver more versatility and value because we're not a point solution. We can be an active archive platform for Rubrik and for other use cases. You might want to push some of your legacy NetApp data onto Cloudian, for example. So there's a versatility to considering a private S3 storage cloud, certainly versus a backup appliance. So I've mentioned a few times our tight S3 integration. It's really unparalleled in the industry. And one of the things that allows us to do, because we're so close and sort of close on the heels, if you will, of Amazon's Simple Storage Service organization, we have a 9-year relationship with their engineering group. So when they bring out new features over time, such as vSig4 a couple of years ago, multi-part upload even further back, another good example of a very valuable but fairly recently introduced capability from AWS is their S3 object lock capability, which allows a fully immutable capability, which leverages worm and versioning. So if you push data into AWS S3, you have the ability to lock that and prevent ransomware. And this is something I certainly, with my systems engineer, could have a deeper discussion with any folks who are interested about this. So as with Rubrik, they deliver immutability and capability in their tier. If you were leveraging Cloudian as the archive behind Rubrik, they would take care of it from that perspective. But if you had other applications or data sets that were living on your Cloudian S3 storage cloud, you could still have that same capability for those data sets. Cloudian would handle the immutability in that case. And this applies to both modes. So in terms of governance mode, data protection, and it protects against certain levels, and then for compliance mode, where we're working with financial services organizations, and I'll talk a little bit in a sec about some of the federal work we've been doing. We have a very hardened solution. So Cloudian is actually deployed fairly extensively in the defense and intelligence components of the federal government, as well as some of the civilian agencies around the country. And we've done a lot of work to be able to be sort of certified to deploy in places like the Defense Intelligence Agency for MilCloud and at the National Institute of Health and National Cancer Institute as examples. And so That and our deployments within places like American Express in the financial space has led to some very significant work. We do, for financial, we do SEC 17A certification, FINRA, and on the government side, we are one of only 2 object storage solutions that have common criteria certification. And we've also very recently achieved our FIPS 140-2 certification. So very hardened platform. In fact, we were also positioned by AWS. We were part of the JEDI Department of Defense bid. And part of the reason for that was Cloudian's ability to deliver a very hardened S3 private S3 storage cloud platform. So again, just a bit more about Object Lock. Again, we can provide that fully immutable capability to other data sets, outside of Rubrik. Not everyone supports it. In fact, very few do right now. Everyone's working on it, but we do have a lead here. And so really at the end of the day, we are seeing a lot of adoption for this particular use case to avoid, just because of what Dan was talking about with respect to ransomware. So just a quick wrap up. Cloudian comes in we can start small with a 3-1U node, 120 terabyte S3 storage cluster that can be managed by ENS, or it can be on-prem, and you could push a DR or lifecycle management out to ENS. These are just a couple of different examples. I mentioned we're software defined. We're deployed, at petabyte scale on HPE, on Cisco UCS, and on Dell EMC, all in the Fortune 1000. I would say the lion's share of our customers deploy the Cloudian appliance platform because of the economics of it. The 2 appliances on the upper left are based on QCT Quanta cloud technologies. They're deployed in the hundreds of thousands at hyperscale companies around the world, very well-vetted storage OEM platform. And then our very dense, a younger relationship, we've been deploying the Seagate-based appliances, the 4U dual node 1.5 petabyte platform. Sorry, my phone was turned around there. Hopefully people can still hear me well. Okay, and just to summarize before I turn over to Chad, why do customers choose Cloudian? And I really haven't mentioned the cost, so I want to make sure I kind of hit on that before we wrap. But again, we are the only object storage provider that delivers a full complement of AWS S3 API. It's very important. Non-disruptive, ease of operation, the ability to do granular bucket level management, and really, at the end of the day, to deliver cloud-like economics without the egress charges. And so I think with that, I will turn that over to Chad Hodges.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I appreciate it, Neil. And appreciate you as well, Dan. Fantastic kind of overviews of both of your technologies, both of which have been partners of ENS for many, many years. I'm just going to kind of tie a bow on this and why these 2 technologies are so critical to the enterprise and especially to a service like what we provide in the state of California. We were awarded, as I mentioned early on, this contract 2 years ago. We now have over 1/3 of the state of California on our service for so many different use cases. I wouldn't even be able to list them all. But the creativity that I see come out of so many cities, counties, K-12, higher ed type of organizations, including the state of California, around how to leverage our service has been fantastic. So it's a testament to a lot of the uniqueness that exists in different levels of government, the different programs. So I'll get right into, kind of our service and what it's about. What sets ENS apart, 20 plus years in business. We have the ability to do premise-based and remote storage as a service and DRAS services, which is pretty exciting when you talk about environments that have a tendency to be either very consolidated or highly distributed. It just really depends, right? So we're very adaptive to the different delivery models that might be required for that. We can also assist with remote management, remote installation and implementation of technologies. And then, of course, as you've seen with this presentation today, our strategic relationships that we have with so many of the storage manufacturers that exist really affords us a broad depth and skill set to meet the needs of so many different departments, enterprises. So that's a little about us in a nutshell. Now, the services that we provide, obviously storage as a service, disaster recovery as a service, infrastructure as a service. One of the linchpins for a lot of this, when we start talking about the amounts of data that need to move from remote offices to the cloud, our OFS services is really just one of those amazing solutions that allows us to have dark and lit fiber connectivity to do deterministic routes, right? They're more secure, they're more performant, and they just really don't have all of the different headaches that sometimes an MPLS type of network solution might have. So we can provide more details on that, but it really enhances our service capabilities. So much of what we do is bound by regulatory compliance. So it's important for us to make sure that we have solutions and manufacturers that are able to help us continue to meet those, right? Because we're in the state data center, data centers, I should say, plural. We're bound by all the same regulatory compliance requirements that the state of California has, as well as cities, counties. You guys are all bound by those as well. So from our perspective, it's like we're one of you. We have to run our operation just like you would run your operation to make sure that we adhere to all those regulatory compliance requirements. So the great thing about both these solutions, everything's encrypted in transit, encrypted at rest. So it really means that we have a strong footprint of security around everything. We also do traditional professional services. We've got dozens of engineers that have hundreds of years of combined experience in all the different solutions and technologies that you see here. Of course, not limited to these, but these are some of our mainstays. Our storage as a service, one of the key features I think I already touched on was we're in the state data centers, but we also really strive to be flexible in terms of our delivery. We want to make sure that we don't bind you, so it's a month-to-month contract that allows you to scale up or scale down. It's a allocation method, so it's not pay as you go. It's a little bit more than that. It's a little more fixed, and that's mostly because of the binding of the contract. But it allows you to move your data sets up or down month to month. So we also monitor and manage everything 24/7. So we also are integrated into the state of California's Security Operations Center in real time. So they get active feeds of all of our logs of all of our infrastructure. We don't give them access in per se to like go in and touch anything, but everything is outbound so that in real time, so that they are able to detect any anomalies and work with us as a partner. But we also have SLA, so that was the thing that we had to do to counter that. Here's kind of just an overview of the entire data management capability of our storage as a service contract. Obviously, next generation data protection with Rubrik. We have next generation cloud protection also with Rubrik. We have next generation storage connectivity, which means if you come into our facility for any tier 1 or tier 2 storage services, we have enterprise class, fiber channel, network attached storage, mainframe attached storage, and of course our partner is Cloudian with S3 storage. And then also retention, flexible consumption models, tape migration, we can do those services so that you can get off of legacy technology. The old adage, tape is dead. Well, it's not, right? We don't see tape being dead in government, although more and more folks are trying to figure out how to get off that technology and that legacy technology. We also don't charge for input and egress charges or ingress and egress charges like you do with the cloud providers. That's one of our claims to fame. So you can move terabytes or petabytes of data over your connectivity because you're responsible for the connectivity. We don't have to worry so much about the puts and the gets. We don't want to unduly penalize anybody. As far as firewalls and different points of presence, those are sunken costs that are built into our rate structure. So we don't want to unjustly, penalize anybody for moving data around when it's needed. And then obviously data governance. We're real big on trying to help customers classify their data and what that data looks like. So it facilitates implementations of data warehouse and analytics, compliance and security. I've got Splunk, I've got Elastic, I've got all these different great technologies that integrate with our service at scale, which has been pretty exciting to to navigate with a lot of our public sector clients. And then we also have this great multi-tenant service delivery platform around backups. You know, so much of what we do is backups in the data center or backup in cloud, right? So, you know, Rubrik and Cloudian both give us the flexibility to meet that need for backup and archive and also DR. But we also acknowledge that not everybody looks the same and not all use cases are the same. So when we look at sort of that multi-tenant footprint, we've got, you know, obviously traditional data center, but we also have small business remote office that we have to account for, right? And that's at the same time having to account for our large enterprise customers. So I've got customers that have petabytes and petabytes of data within our state data center facilities that we manage, monitor, and maintain. But then we've got hundreds of remote offices or small cities or counties that also need to make sure that they're able to have that same enterprise class capability in their smaller remote offices, right? And that may mean a local backup within an archive out feature so that the data is replicated to another target, which we're able to facilitate at scale. Rubrik is a fantastic partner in that, as is Cloudian, especially when we start talking about big data sets like, you know, video archive, GIS archive. Cloudian and Rubrik are just fantastic partners to be able to move that data seamlessly and securely and give us that confidence that things are being taken care of with our overlying service. I touched on our optical fabric service. This is literally just transformant in terms of the amounts of data that we can move. We just did a performance test from Equinix in San Jose down to Switch SuperNAP facility in Las Vegas, moved a 500 gig package of data, which is comparable to a movie on Netflix, round trip, less than 8 milliseconds of latency, which is pretty earth-shattering. We start thinking about what you can do with virtual machines and moving terabits of data, especially with a service like ours. So if anybody's interested in more information on that, I'm happy to help with that. And then some of the just, highlights as we start to wind down some of our capabilities. When we look at, our ease of access, it's very easy. It's like opening a ticket in ServiceNow. You place a ticket with CDT in their service catalog. That paperwork usually routes in about a week. It's pretty fast. We have multiple protocol support. So, whether you're trying to do NAS or fiber channel, block storage, whatever you're looking for, we can do on-site or remote. We have the connectivity capabilities, and we integrate with the existing contracts that the state of California has as well, like CGen and CalNet. But we also don't have any of the transit penalties. So you can move as much data as you want to move. We don't care. We adhere to the same security standards and compliance requirements, whether that be, HIPAA, SOX, CGIS, you name it. We're bound by all the same levels of security and compliance that you are bound by. And then, of course, we have the additional services that we can apply to the entire service, which I think is a big differentiator. Storage is one thing, but when you think about all the touch points that exist to implement solutions, and the amount of flexibility that we have to have because every customer is unique, that's a big differentiator for us, our service as well. Plus, you get to do it all billed monthly. It's very easy. It makes it an OpEx as opposed to a big capital expenditure. And then, this is just the ease of access. I'm beating a dead horse when I talk about this, but we can send, consultants to your remote sites. We can send technology to your remote sites. So in the example of large data sets, when I onboard customers that have a lot of data in remote areas and we need to get a big archive, I can send a seed unit out there. I can sync it locally, and then I can bring it back, and then we show a destruction chain of custody so that we can show the complete chain of custody so that data didn't leak somewhere or go somewhere else. So that's pretty exciting. And then the flexibility to change your plan as you see fit, increase or decrease. I haven't had too many people decrease capacity, obviously, because so much data is created in these new times, but pretty exciting there. And then, just some of the add-on services, like I said, we can do enterprise data warehousing. We can do backup and monitoring of your cloud infrastructures. So Rubrik's got great technology around Office 365 and AWS and being able to take care of all of those, core hybrid environments, all from a single pane of glass. And then e-discovery with worm compliance. We have a great partner in Cloudian to be able to do worm compliant capabilities, especially for legacy data archive, things that have to be held for, years or decades even. We have a number of compliance customers that require that. So we want to make sure that they have confidence that that data hasn't been changed. Had a unique use case come up not too long ago with public health. birth and death certificates are two things that you want to make sure that you write it once and read it many times, but you don't want it to be ever changed, right? Because you want to be able to prove that nobody went in there and modified someone's birth certificate to make it a different date or a different location, things like that. Or even same thing with the death certificate. So kind of a unique use case that we did. So, and that's kind of all I've got. This is just some of our quick contact info. And now I'll turn it over to Jennifer to maybe get some of those questions asked and answered.
Perfect. Excellent. I would like to thank Dan, Chad, and Neil for their time today, and to our audience for joining us as well. Let's go to questions. Our first question is, I understand that Cloudian storage is used with Rubrik for backup and archive storage. Can Cloudian object storage also be used and shared with other S3 compatible applications I want to use? Neil, this one sounds like it's for you.
Yeah, the simple answer is yes. And any application that speaks to Amazon Web Services simple storage service is guaranteed to work and to work with Cloudian Hyperstore. So the short answer is yes.
Perfect. Thank you. There's another question. I'm interested in protecting and securing my Rubrik backups. How secure can the Cloudian stored backups be made?
Neil, I think that'd be you, not me, because we'd be archiving you. Do you want to add to that?
Sure. So I just want to make sure I understood the question. How secure can the archives be made?
Correct. So the question is, I'm interested in... Oh, you can go.
Go ahead and repeat the question if you would. I apologize.
Perfect. I'm interested in protecting and securing my Rubrik backups. How secure can the Cloudian stored backups be made?
Okay. Gosh, this is one of those times where I'd love to have my systems engineer because he could be so much more eloquent. But I think the high level answer is very secure. To the part of my presentation where I discussed our support for the AWS S3 lock. S3 object lock capability. We have the ability from the Cloudian tier to deliver a fully immutable ransomware protected solution with even deeper security capabilities that certainly we could discuss in a more expansive discussion with the customer.
And this is Chad. Along those lines, there's a reason we chose Cloudian for that exact same reason. One of the other requirements that our contract had, if we were to win it and be awarded like we were 2 years ago, was we had to work with all the existing backup technologies and S3 compatible technologies that might have an S3 blob type of requirement and be able to do encryption at rest and encryption in transit. So Cloudian served that need for us. Rubrik has also, been a very strategic partner in that they've been able to facilitate a better end-to-end story when it comes to data protection. But we still have to work with all the legacy technologies as well, and Cloudian integrates with those as well.
Perfect. Thank you. There was another question that came up. I think this one came up during your presentation, Dan. It is, what is the maximum scale-out capacity?
Rubrik can scale, one appliance can scale up to 120 terabytes. That's one. In terms of maximum appliances, we've got customers into petabytes of data.
Perfect. And I know we are getting short on time, so this will probably be our last question. So this person says, it sounds great. What's the next step to get started? My guess is this is probably for all of you.
If you could connect us with whoever that customer is through ENF, we'd be happy to have a conversation with them.
Yeah, and all of our contact info is on the screen right now. All of those will go directly to the three of us. So, those are our direct lines. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Perfect. So that's going to conclude the questions for today. And I just want to thank you for joining us, and thank you to our presenters today. Appreciate it. Thank you.